Hey everybody, we're here today in the shop. We're going to go over our process that we do to make arrows. We're going to start with just a raw shaft and take it through the steps that we use to get to this point being one of our finished arrows. As you can see, we got a couple samples up here. It's all basically the same process. Some of them are a little more in detail than others, but quite literally it's the same process. It's just a little more paint. So this is how we do it. We start with a basic shaft. This is a Port Orford cedar shaft, which has already been hand straightened, and we already started sanding it. We go through a series of sandpapers. We start with on a shaft like this that came to us already sized, 320, and work our way up to 600. And depending on the shafts we're working on, we can go as high as 1500 as far as sandpaper, as far as the grit. And when we're sanding it, quite literally all we're doing is we're just going to put the sandpaper around the shaft, and we're counting the strokes up and down, then rotating the shaft and counting the strokes again. And we're going to continue that process around the shaft to keep it round. So it's going to look something like this. And we're going to rotate, and then keep rotating around until we get to our desired smoothness. Then we're going to stop, flip it over, and do the same thing to the reverse side. And once we've sanded it to the point, like I said, we have our desired smoothness, the finish that we're looking for on the shaft, the next step is to taper the ends of the shaft. For that we have a taper tool. A taper tool is basically a glorified pencil sharpener. What it has is two different angle cuts in it, a 5 and an 8 degree cut, and it has a stop in it. So like a pencil sharpener, you can keep sharpening the pencil until there's nothing left. This will actually stop. The small end would be the knock end, so we'll start here, and we'll start sharpening this. And just like a pencil, you're just twisting it until basically it stops. And what you're looking for is these nice ribbons of wood to come out. Nice smooth cut. You want to be cutting, not tearing the wood, because again, if you're cutting the wood, or if you're ripping the wood, if it's not a sharp blade and you're ripping it instead of cutting it, quite literally what you can do is you can gouge the wood, and it can actually tear chunks out of the shaft, which will show even after you got the knock on. Then once you're done with the knock end, you're going to flip it over for the point end, put it in, and it's the exact same process. You're just again going to sharpen it all the way down until basically it doesn't want to sharpen anymore. And you see your ribbon just kind of pop off there. And then you got both ends tapered. Next step from here would be to put the knock on it. Now when you put the knock on it, let me reach over here and grab one. Wood has grains in it. So what you want to do is you want to position the shaft, the knock on the shaft, so that the string is pushing across all of the grains of wood evenly. So as it pushes it, it's pushing across all the grains at the same time, which is going to make the shaft just shoot better and function more like wood. As far as gluing on the knocks and the points, there's a lot of different things you can use. Some people use hot melt, which is similar to like a hot glue. There's other adhesives you can use as well. We prefer Gorilla Glue. It's just what we've been using now for years. We find we get a nice bond with it. It's a little bit more durable than, let's say, hot melt. Some of the other materials, it doesn't become brittle with age. And if I need to take a point off, let's say a field point, maybe put a broadhead on, you can loosen it the same way you would hot melt with just heat. And again, it just takes a small little drip of glue. You don't want a lot, just enough to catch and make everything work. It is an expandable glue, so you don't want to use a lot of it because the wheel's going to go a long way. And again, you're just going to push that on there, seating it, and then turning it clockwise or counterclockwise, don't matter, but you want to turn it until it gets to the point where it's pushing across all the grains of wood like we spoke about earlier. Then we're going to set that off to the side to just go ahead and dry. In the interest of time, we have one here that we've already glued the knock onto. At this point in time, we're going to prep the shaft for paint. Now, what we do is we put a coat of clear coat on this, so when we start cresting it, the paint doesn't bleed into the wood, and we're able to get nice, crisp, clean lines with it. To do that, we have a dip tube with a cap that kind of squeegees off the excess clear coat, but there's a lot of other things you can use as well. Now, other things we have used in the past is like wipe-on poly. We've even used like spray-on lacquers. Both are good. We just find we get a little bit better results with the dip tube. But any oil-based polyurethane or clear coating material would work just fine. Now, as far as the dip tube, what we do is knock first. The top here has these little holes in this gasket, and what we do is we just start knock first, forcing it down that hole all the way to the point, and then just pull it back out. As it pulls out, that gasket squeegees off any excess polyurethane and leaves us with a nice thin coat, which will dry. Again, in the interest of time, here's one that we've already done that to, and the clear coat has dried. This has one coat of the polyurethane on it already. And again, you can start to feel the finish on it. It's got that nice smooth finish. At this point in time, we take it to the cresting machine and start painting our designs on it. Again, you know, here's some other examples of some of the arrows we've done in the past. You can get very intricate with it, or you can keep it real simple. It really depends on how you want your arrows to look at the end. You know, the nice thing about cresting arrows is it's your project. At the end, you can have something that's uniquely yours. For these, we're just going to do a simple one color design, just the black with the bars and pinstriping. Okay. We've got the arrow in the cresting machine right now. This is something we put together ourselves, which is basically just an old sewing machine motor with a piece of rubber hose and some rollers that just rotate the shaft. And we have it set up to a dimmer switch so we can control how fast or slow we want it to rotate. Since we've already started cresting these, we're going to continue with the same pattern we have. We want them all to match. As far as paint, you know, the sky's the limit as far as paint. There's literally thousands of choices out there. We find paint pens work very well for our application. They're readily available, and I'll be honest with you, it's easy for me because I don't have to spend a lot of time cleaning paint brushes. So all we're doing is the shaft spinning. We're coming over to it, and we are just with a steady hand putting our lines down, following our previous pattern. And as far as the speed of cresting, it just, the paint will tell you what to do. You know, you're going to put down, you're going to move as fast as you need to get what you're looking for. It's actually quite enjoyable. I enjoy cresting arrows. I find it fun. It's a little relaxing to me. You just kind of take your time with it and create your designs. It's your chance to really be creative with your arrows and kind of make them your own. And just like that, we have our design. And again, you could go through and you can put multiple coats down, or you know, different patterns, or however you want. But this is what we're doing with these particular arrows today. At this point in time, this paint has to dry. Of course, if I was doing a set, I'd move on to my next arrow and do my 6 or 12, whatever I need to, until they're done. Again, in the interest of time, we have one here that we already have painted, which was this one here. And after the paint is fully cured, we need to again apply more clear coat to it to help protect that cresting. So what we find with that is we'll take off the gasket that we had put on previously. We'll take that off, and again, going knock in first into our tube of clear coat all the way to the point, and then dragging it back out. This gives us a nice thick coat of clear coat. Just kind of let that drip off a little bit. That's going to give us a nice thick coat, which is not only going to help finish fully sealing that shaft, preventing moisture from getting in there and warping these arrows over time, but it's going to give us that nice feel to the arrow as well. Give it almost a nice plasticky type finish and really protect that paint job that we had just completed. Let that drip. Then what I typically do is I'll let it rest point side down and just let it drip out from there, coming up periodically and just kind of rotating the shaft, making sure that I don't have any drips or anything like that. If you do get a drip or something in there, you're just going to go with a real fine grit sandpaper after it dries and then just buff it out. Again, here we have another shaft. Now this is done with the exact same process. You can see we get a nice coat on there. It's nice and smooth. And this is done the exact same way as we did there. Once that dries, a lot of times we'll dip them a second time, which will give us our 3 coats of polyurethane on the shafts, is what we use. And again, that gives us a nice, hard, durable coat of finish on here that's we find really, not only does it feel good, but they seem to function really well too. So at this point in time, we have the knock on, the cresting on, we got clear coat on, the point. Next step from here is just gluing some feathers on it. So from here, we're going to take it over to the cresting machine. So with the cresting jig, I'm sorry, the fletching jig, we're done cresting. The fletching jig has indicators here on the knob. This one particular one is set up for 3 feathers, and it has an indicator little mark right here. This is going to indicate our cock feather. What I like to do is, on our boring nocks, they have a little T, and on the flip side, the 11/32 or 5/16, depending on whatever shaft size we're working on. The T I like to indicate is the top. So the T is going to go towards the fletching jig, and then just rest in the little groove there. We take our clamp, and since we're on the indicator notch, we're going to, in this case, use our barred feather. And I've already got little marks lined up on here. So we're going to line the back of it up to this little black mark I have already established. Seating it in, then coming over to the shaft itself, making sure it's a nice seat in there. Then we're going to go over our glue. We use Fletch Tight platinum glue. It's just what we've used from day one. You know, we just have always used it. We've had good luck with it. What we're going to do is just run a solid bead of glue right down the quill side of the feather. You don't need a lot, just a continuous bead is all you're looking for. Too much glue, it's going to squeeze out from underneath the feather onto the shaft, making a mess for you to clean. Not enough glue, and then the feather won't hold on to the shaft properly, and the feather will eventually come free when you're shooting the arrow. So just a nice continuous bead. You're coming over to magnetic, so what I like to do is just put the end of the clamp on the jig here, kind of have the magnet snap in, and then just push it down to where they touch. Any excess glue like that comes out, you can just clean off. I use my finger and then just clean it up later with a rag. And you're just going to continue that process, you know, with the other 2 feathers. when you're done, you're going to wind up with a arrow that looks just like this. So this has been the process we use to make our arrows. I hope you found it informative and somewhat helpful. This particular set of arrows, along with many other, can be found on our shop, Podunk Hollow on Etsy. So please check us out. Thank you.